Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com, and in this tutorial we're going to create an Android virtual device so that we can then go on and run our first program. So I'm going to go to Window and AVD Manager, that's Android Virtual Device Manager, and I'm going to click New to create a new Android virtual device. So we're actually going to create a new emulator, and we're going to be able to run our code in that emulator. Now actually I should point out that since the last tutorial I've installed a few more Android SDK versions via this SDK manager, and when you actually create your application, you have to think about what version of Android to target it to. You don't necessarily want to target it for the latest version of Android, because most people won't have that. So if you do that, you're going to really limit the market for your application. And if you go to Google and you search for Android platform versions and go to this link on developer.android.com, then you can see here a breakdown of how many people are using which or what percentage of people are using which version of Android at any given time. And each version comes with a version number like 2.3 or 4.0, but it also comes with an API level, and the API level is kind of just a convenient number to work with to tell you what version of the Android SDK you're working with. Now the kind of rule of thumb from developer.android.com is that it's a good idea to target your application for 90% of users, and I think for the purposes of this tutorial I'm actually going to target API level maybe 9 or 10, because if you look at how many people on this chart are using the Gingerbread version of Android, it's like a majority of people are able to run applications targeted at API level 9 or 10, and there aren't that many people using an API level below that. So I figure that's a good compromise, and I'm going to go back to Eclipse now. So I installed, using this SDK manager, I installed like API level 10 SDKs, or an SDK for API level 10, and now I can create a emulator for that API level. So just to repeat, the API level is really just a number that corresponds to an Android version, and we want to target a slightly older version rather than the absolute latest one, in order so that more people can run our application. So having said all that, I'm now going to go to the AVD manager, and I'm going to click New, and I'm going to select a target in here. And I've got all these different targets because I installed all those different SDKs, as I just explained. And I'm going to select, let's try this Google API's API level 10 emulator, and I'm going to select like widescreen 800 pixel resolution. So it's going to have a width or a height, depending on how you look at it, of 800 pixels. And let's just call this 810 to help me keep track of what this emulator is. And I'll give it, here you can specify the size of a micro SD card, which you can insert in your phone to provide memory for files. And let's set this to 1 gigabyte, so that we pretty much definitely shouldn't run out of space for the purposes of testing. And I'll leave everything else as it is, and I'll click Create Android Virtual Device here. So we've created the device, and now I'm going to click Start. And when you click Start, let's see, I'm going to click Wipe User Data here, and that will probably remain checked every time. So I want to, every time I restart this device, I'd like to just wipe all data off it, and I'll click Launch. If you click Scale Display to real size, then at least on my laptop the devices tend to look really minuscule, because this is quite a big screen for a laptop that you're looking at right now on this video, and 800 pixels is like nothing, so it's like a matchbox, so I won't tick that, and I'll click launch. And this initial screen doesn't take long, and once this is finished you can close these dialogues. But what does take a long time is booting this emulator, so I'm just going to get rid of this. And Android, as I understand it, is built on Linux, the Linux operating system, and Linux of course takes a while to boot, and Android in an emulator like this takes a hell of a long time to boot. It could easily be 10 minutes. But the good news is that you don't need to keep rebooting it every time you recompile your program. You can just boot this emulator and run it, and then you can keep redeploying your application to this one emulator. And it is a bit buggy, and you might need to restart it. You might need to restart Eclipse even, or to do things like going to project and cleaning your project to clear out the class files and rebuilding them. And in extreme circumstances, sometimes to get this to work after it's stopped working, I've had to actually restart my computer. But it's hopefully worthwhile. You need a little bit of patience, but nothing takes quite as long as this initial boot. So I'm going to go away now and come back in just a minute when this has made more progress. Okay, so just a minute or 2 minutes has passed now, and the device is actually booted already, as you can see, which is a pleasant surprise for me, because it can take really a long time. I did also install from the SDK manager the x86 accelerator, and I don't know if that makes a difference or not. I installed this Intel x86 emulator accelerator. Maybe that speeded it up compared to my previous experience or not, but you can always install it and see if it helps. Now in the next tutorial we're going to build a Hello World application, and I'm going to use this emulator to do it. And there's just one more thing I want to say about emulators, which is that often when they boot, the screen is initially locked, and you might need to unlock the screen just by pretend the mouse is your finger and unlock it as you would a phone by dragging the lock out the circle or whatever. But with this emulator it appears to be unlocked as it is, so it's fine. Okay, so in the next tutorial we'll build a Hello World program, and until then, happy coding.